right, so this is the search form I prepared for this project. It's a very simple search form. Let me explain how it works first. As you can see in the screen, there are first 3 tabs: 2023, 2022, and 2021. These all have same data, just it's been separated by year, and they have columns like last name, invoice number, date, month, quantity, description, price, and total. And it is same for all these 3 tabs. And when we perform search, this form is supposed to go through all these 3 tabs and then display the result from the 8th row to all the way to the end, whatever length of the search result is. It also has last name, invoice number, date, month. Everything else is same except for the last column, and this is SPRD name, spreadsheet name in the row index, which will determine which row and spreadsheet this particular search result in this row belongs to. So that's how the search result will appear in this spreadsheet. Now let me talk about the form. As you can see, the first label is client, and which means that the first search criteria is name, last name. Here's dropdown, which I will talk about in a moment. Let me just first explain the input fields. And the second criteria is quantity, and which is this one, the 5th column, and it is 5th in every spreadsheet. And another is description, and which is the 6th column. And we will use these 3 search criteria to search, to filter through our result, through our spreadsheet. And here's another thing which is also very important, which is the checkbox. And this checkbox will determine if this search is going to be AND search or a OR search. What I mean is, if we check this checkbox, then the result should have all these 3 keywords, all the provided keywords in each and every row in the search result. However, if we uncheck this checkbox, then it will act like an OR search, which means that it doesn't matter if the keyword is present in every row or not. As long as one keyword is present, as long as one input field is present, then it will be displayed in the search result. Now let me talk about these dropdowns. To implement dropdown, we're going to have to go to data validation. As you can see, there are 4 validations. The fourth one, this is default. This is just for checkbox. There's nothing else. But for these 3 validations, the B2 is for this one, client. E2 is for this one, quantity, and G2 is for description. And all these data validations are gaining their values as a range from another spreadsheet, config. As you can see, there is no config file because I have hidden this spreadsheet. I will talk about this in a moment. So what you must know is all these dropdown values are coming from config. And this one is the A row, A column, and another one is B, and then another one is C. So let me go to config sheets. As you can see, there's a value for this is name, this is quantity, and this is description. And here you can see an example of the formula used to collect all these values from different spreadsheets. So let me talk about this one, and it's the same principle for all these 3 columns. Which this one is collecting names from each tabs, 2023, 22, 21. As I mentioned earlier, all these columns are same, exactly the same, and also in the exactly same position, which is A for last name, E for quantity, and F for description. And this first column collects the values from all the names, last names from all of these 3 tabs. And then first it collects the names from 2021 tab and then joins them with comma. And it does the same thing for 2022 and 2023. After joining all this text, it will again split those text where there is comma, and then it will get individual values of names which are separated by a comma. And after that, we will transpose this data because the split will return the data in a row, and the transpose will transform the row into a column. And after that, it will filter all the duplicate values and only extract unique values. After that, it will sort the values on the dropdowns in ascending order. So it's doing the same thing for all these 3 dropdowns. After it's prepared, then the search functions dropdowns will fetch their respective data from the respective column. So that is what's happening here. And there's another thing that you should notice in the dropdown. Let's go here. In the advanced option, I'm not rejecting input, I'm just showing warning. That is because we might not want to input every sentence, every letters while we're searching for the result. For instance, description section. Description, it's showing warning because the description doesn't actually have a single word called package, but it does include a word package in several descriptions. So instead of typing everything, maybe we want to search for all those rows that has package in it. So to do so, we're going to have to display the warning instead of rejecting the input. And it is same for all these input fields. I hope the form is clear. And yeah, I know it's very ugly, but it works. So if you want to make it look more beautiful, please play with it and make it play with the aesthetics, change the colors, change the backgrounds. But remember, I am hard coding these ranges in the codes. So if you change any ranges, if you change the places for these input fields, make sure to change those ranges in the code as well. So please remember that, and you can find this spreadsheet in the GitHub repository. You can just download them with all the other codes, so don't worry about it. Okay, so now I hope the form and the spreadsheet was clear. Now we will move on to start coding and then make our own search function. Alright, so we're in our project source form sheets, and I have created 2 files, search file and utils file. Search is the file in which we will be creating main functions to handle the search operations, and the utils file is the file in which we will be creating helper functions that will be essential for our project to work. So please make sure to create those files in your project as well. All right. So first we will fetch all the spreadsheets in our project, which is the spreadsheet itself, and then we will fetch search sheet, and then 2023 sheet, 2022 sheet, and 2021 sheet. And after that, we will also declare variables for the notations we will be using a lot. For instance, this A2A is the notation for the column which hails the name or the last name of the customers in every spreadsheet, not just one. So it's the same for search sheet, 2021, 2022, 2023. And F2F for description, and E2 to all the E's for the quantity. So I'm using this variable instead of hard coding them whenever we need them, because we're going to use these notations a lot, and I don't want to make any mistakes of any typos or anything. So I think naming them as a variable is a better option. All right, let's move on. First, we'll create the function search. It will be the function that will be assigned to the search button in this Google Sheets. In this button, But for now, you must know that this is the function that will orchestrate all the search operation. So this is the top function that will call all other functions inside. Of course, we're going to implement try and catch block. And first, we will fetch client name, quantity, and descriptions, and also has included all selected from search sheet. If we go back to the spreadsheet, as you can see here, B2 to C2 is actually the range for the input field for the client's name. And this is E2 for quantity, and then after that, this G2 to I2 is the one for the description. And then this checkbox has the range for G4 to Z5. And so these all values we will fetch in our app script when the search function is called. All right, let me try console logging them. So we know that it's working. Let's run this. Run again. As you can see, all the 4 values are displayed here: RL, 241, package, and true. This means that 241 package, and then true. This, when the checkbox is checked, it will be true, and when it's not checked, it will be false, obviously. And the value RL for client. All right, so now we have that. Let me comment them again because we don't need it right now. Now this is a status variable. We will need it later on when we actually perform the search operation, and if something goes wrong or if the search field is empty, something like that, then we will return the status of 400. If everything goes right and if there is actually the search result, then we will return status of 200 from other functions, from not here, and we will use this value of this status to toast different messages in the spreadsheet. But for now, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to declare it here. Okay, then we will check if the value for checkbox has been checked or not, because as I mentioned earlier, if the checkbox is checked, we're supposed to operate in AND search. If not, we will just do OR search. All right, so let's create AND search function, which will take 3 parameters: name, description, and quantity, which is the input field, obviously. And then we will actually fetch values for our respective column from each spreadsheet. And we'll start from 2021 spreadsheet, and we will search for names, and here we're searching for description and quantity. As you can see, there's a function search sheet by column, which we will create next, but let me explain something else here. If the name, the parameter name, is actually empty, which means that user hasn't provided the value for this field, then instead of going through calling function and fetching the result and wasting time, we will save time and be more efficient by just declaring it as an empty array. Else we will call this function. Okay, let me go to utils file and create this function now. Search sheet by column. So it will be a general function which will take in 3 parameters. First, the sheet, which spreadsheet do you want to search into. Then another is range notation, because we are searching 3 columns. Remember, name, or is it a quantity or description. So this range will determine which column to fetch and search the keywords. And the value itself, the input value. All right, so we will fetch the data from the given sheet, and we will use the notation. If it's name, then we will use all the rows starting from A2. And if it's quantity, then we will use all the rows starting from E2 in each spreadsheet, and same goes for description. First we will fetch that data. I'm using flat because whenever you fetch one column, then each values are nested arrays in themselves. So by flattening them, we get just one array, one long array, and then we are filtering string, because since we do not know the last row, we are fetching everything in that column, and it's possible that many values are empty there. We don't want our search function to go through each empty values, which is unnecessary, so we're just filtering them out. Then if the data is empty, then we will just return an empty array. We don't have to go through other steps. Else, so three things are happening here, because what this function does is it goes through the data, and it will try to match the value with the search value. And if the value and the search value matches, then we will return index, not the value itself, but the index. Why? Because it's easier to later on compare, filter, remove duplicates, things like those with just indexes, and instead of going through each strings. You will get that later on. Even if it's confusing now, you will definitely get what I'm trying to say later on. All right, so first, in the first cycle, it will map through its value and indexes of data, and then it will return the value and data, and it will pass it to another filter function, the values and indexes. So what I'm trying to do here is range notation. If the range notation is for quantity, because the quantity is number, not the strings like name and description, so we're going to have to compare it differently. If the value, past value, is quantity, then we will compare if those numbers are equal to each other. Else, we will convert the value which is passed down from the data to lowercase, because it's possible the cases are different from the user input to the value that is saved in the rows. So we will convert both of those values into lowercase, and then check if the value includes this search term. We're using includes because, as I mentioned earlier, the user can input just one word instead of whole sentences. So by using includes, we can check if the long sentences include the search term. So if so, what this filter does is it will only return the values and indexes if our search term is true. Then it will pass it to another mapping here, but we are not using value because we don't really care about that here. Then what we'll do is we will return the indexes +1. The +1 because later on from other functions we're going to fetch the whole data starting from row 1, not 2. So we're trying to match the indexing positions of the items in the arrays. And then we will return all indexes of the values that match. Or it can be just an empty array, right, like this. So now our search seed is ready. Let's give it a docstring, and let's go back to our search. Now our indexes is prepared for 2021 seeds. Then we will do same for the 2022 and 2023. Like this. It's the same thing, but for different spreadsheet. After this, what this function does is takes in the matching indexes for name, quantity, and description from each seed, and it will extract only those search results that has all these search terms. Remember, we are doing AND search. The search terms provided by the user, either name, description, and quantity, should be included in each search results row. It's not an or search, so we can't have a name only existing in one search result and then there is quantity in another result. We can't have that. So the rows, each rows in the search result should have all these three values or two, depending upon how many keywords are provided by the user, and it is handled by this filter rows indexes with all search terms function. Okay, let me create that function here in utils. Okay, so it will take three arrays. These arrays will be the matching indexes of names, quantity, and descriptions from same spreadsheet. So this one is for 2021, next is for 22, and next is for 2023. Okay, so what I'm doing here is creating another master array and putting all these three arrays inside of it. But I'm checking if these arrays have length greater than 0. So why I'm doing this is it could be possible that the keyword provided by the user doesn't have any match. And if so, this function which we created earlier, search it by column, it can return an empty array. Or it is also possible that the user, they will not provide any values in this search term. Since it's empty, it will not have any matches. And if so, these arrays will be empty here. That's why if such thing occurs, then we are just using empty string here. Else, we will pass these arrays as a nested array. And then at last, we are filtering string because we want to remove these empty values. I hope I'm being clear here. All right, so next we will check if all these arrays were empty. It can happen, obviously. Then we will just return an empty arrays. We don't have to do anything else here. Else, we will declare another variable which will later on consist of all the matching indexes. Since we do not know which of these arrays will be empty or not, we will perform this matching logic differently depending upon the length of this array. And we will start with 3. So if the array's length is 3, which means that if all these parameters have at least some indexes, then we will loop through each values in the first array and check if these values are included in the second and third array. And if so, we will push that value, which is an index, in the matching indexes. If not, it will just continue looping until this looping is finished. Next, else if the array's length is 2, which means that one of these arrays were empty and were removed from here. In that case, what we'll do is we will loop through the values of the first item in this nested array and then check if the values is included in the second item. Else, somehow if 2 items are empty, in such cases we don't have to check any matching indexes because there won't be any multiple arrays. So I'm just pushing the first item, which will be the only item. After that, we will return a flattened array of matching indexes. This function will not be used in the OR search because we don't really care if all these 3 keywords are present in each rows or not. But in case of AND search, we have to filter them out. Okay, let's go back to our search file. And next, since we have gotten all the matching values and then filter the one that is suitable for AND search, next we will fetch the data. Remember, until now we have only indexes, not the data. Now we will get data themselves. and it will be done by fetch data by row indexes function. And we will go to utils file again and create that function here. And of course, it will take two parameters, which seat to use to fetch the data from, and second will be the arrays of indexes. And if the indexes arrays is empty or doesn't have a length of at least 1, then we will just return empty arrays because it doesn't have any data to fetch. Then we will get the data itself using get data range and get values. This function will fetch all the data, including header row. So that's why we earlier added 1. Okay, so this will be the old data. This will be the data that we fetch from the seat, which we are trying to get the matching indexes value from. And the new data, this new data is going to be filled with all the data that we fetch by using the indexes that is provided in this parameter. And we will loop through the indexes, and then as you can see, we're fetching the rows from the data using the indexes value. And what we're adding here is actually, as I mentioned earlier, the search seat has another row, SPRD name and row indexes. And this will have the information about the spreadsheet's name and the rows indexes from which this search results row belongs to. So in here, we are providing the name of the spreadsheet, and then hyphen, and then indexes plus 1. We're adding 1 here because remember, the indexing starts from 0 in JavaScript arrays, but the indexing starts from 1 in Spreadsheet. So this will be an extra information which will only be included in the search seat. Okay, after doing that, we will return the data. Okay, let's go back to our search and search in the search file. So this function, filter duplicate rows, is checking just in case if the values which we fetched by the fetch data by row indexes from each seat, just in case if it has duplicate values, then it will remove the repeated values and it will only provide the unique values. And we know if it's repeated or not because we returned not just rows search results but also the indexes and the spreadsheet name is the last value in the array item just earlier. So that value will actually determine if the whole row is duplicate or not. Otherwise, it is also possible that in the spreadsheet itself there are multiple values which are duplicate. So the only thing that will determine if the row is actually duplicate or not is the last column, last value we created just a moment ago for our last column, SPRD-row index. So it will check if these values are duplicate or not, and then remove the duplicate values and only return unique values from each spreadsheet's search result. So let me go to the utils file again and create this filter duplicate rows function. And of course, it will return empty array if the parameter in itself is empty. Then we are creating a delimiter here. How it's used is I'll explain in a moment. Let's just move on from here. So what I'm doing here is mapping through each row in the array item, and then I'm joining that array with this delimiter. So what it will do is it will go through each item in each row and join them with this delimiter and convert them into a string. And then to get the unique arrays, we will use new set method provided by JavaScript. So set is an JavaScript object which can have only unique values. It cannot have a duplicate values. So by passing this arrays into the set, it will remove all those duplicate items and it will only return unique strings. Remember, this is string now because earlier we converted those rows into strings by joining them. So this set function will remove all the duplicate values, duplicate strings, and then next we will map through each of those strings and then split them with the delimiter itself. Earlier we joined them, now we are splitting them. The only difference is that earlier there might have been duplicate items, but now we don't have any duplicate rows. We only have unique rows. And then we will return these unique arrays. Now let's go back to our search function. Now we have search results from each individual seats. And since we have to include all of them as one items, as one big array, so we are creating another array which will have results from all these three seats, 2023, 21, 22, and this will be and search result. And then we're checking if the and search result length is 0, then we will return nothing, else we will return an item search result. Because as you remember, if we return nothing, then we're going to have to go to the error part, or we're going to have to return different toast. We will check in the search function in a moment if there's a search result or not. So let's go back to our search function, the big one, and then continue on from the point we left, which is if the checkbox is checked, then we will call the and search function and get the new data search result. And then we will fill the spreadsheet with the search result. So as you remember, I'm not checking this if the new data is actually empty or not. We will do that in this field search with the results function. So what this function does is it takes two parameters as is being displayed here. First is the old values in the search seats here, which means that all the values in this search sheet starting from row 1 is passed down to this search results to this function. And the second one is the new data, new search result, which we get from the and search. And why we're passing all the values in the search sheet is I will explain next in the utils where we create this function. Okay, so I'm naming them old data and new data. So if the old data's length is greater than or equal to 8, then we will clear the search result. So why 8? So let's go back to our search sheet. Currently we are passing all the data, all the values starting from row 1, but the actual search result which will be displayed to the user starts from 8. So we're checking that if the previous search result actually exists in this spreadsheet or not, because we don't want to clear these rows before row 8, because these are supposed to be a permanent settings. So if there is any previous search result which starts from row 8, then we will clear the search sheet starting from range 8. And that's how we will only clear the search results instead of clearing everything, including inputs and dropdowns and things like those. Now we are secure. Next, after clearing those results, we will flush and wait for 1 second. And then in here, we are checking if after clearing all those things, we are now check if the data which was passed down as a new data has any values or not. I could have done that previously here. Instead of doing that, I directly passed it in as a parameter here because I wanted to clear this search result of the previous operation, regardless if the current operation has any result or it's just empty result. So after clearing this, even if there is no search result, it will just return 400. If we have a new search result, then we will fill the search sheet starting from row 8 with the new data, and then we will return 200. So if there is no search result, we will return 400, and if the operation was successful and if we fill the data with the new data, new search result, then we will return status of 200. Now, since we have the status of 200, we're supposed to handle success or error by toasting the result in the spreadsheet using toast method provided by the spreadsheet. But before we do that, we still have to handle the OR search, which means that this if section is finished for now. Now we will handle the OR search. Create a function named OR search, and we're basically doing the same thing. We're searching through each column here like we did previously, searching by the column name and fetching the data from each sheet. After that, we will fetch the data by indexes because unlike in AND search, where we after fetching the result from each sheet, where we also check if these results had all three keywords or the provided keywords in each row. We don't have to do that in OR search, but we still have to filter out unique rows so that we don't display the duplicate rows. To do so, first we're going to have to, of course, get the data, because up until this point, they are just indexes. Now we have data. And the data will be now filtered out using the similar logic like we did previously. And after that, we prepare the OR search result. If the search result is empty, we will just return nothing, which is undefined. Else we will return the source result. Okay, now we will go back to our search function in the else section, which is where we will call OR search. And again, the same principle, we will call this fill search with result function, and we will pass this new search results arrays there and in the old values as well. And we will get a status code. Then now we will handle this toasting. The first thing we will do is we will give the feedback to the user that the search function is being implemented, which means that as soon as we click this search button, there will be a toast appearing in the bottom section of the spreadsheet, which will tell the user searching through your database. It will toast that message. And when the search result has some status code, then we will check if the status is 400 or not. And if it is 400, we will throw a new error, and this new error will have message and search failure. This search status is an enum which we will create here, and it will have two keys: search successful and search failure. Search was successful, and in the search failures case, no items were found. We will treat it as an error and then throw the error and let the catch block handle this case. And after this, we will check if the status is 200 or not. In case the operation was successful, if the search was 200, use the search successful toast, and if the status was 400, go to catch block by throwing the error, and in the catch block, we will do this. If the error was and search failure and start search failure, so this is and search failure is actually something I have removed from this tutorial because currently we are just using very basic toasting. Maybe later on you can display different messages for and searches failure and or searches failure or something like that, but I forgot to actually remove this from here, so I will do that in a moment. But in case of the error search failure, we will toast this message not found and then the message in the utilities in the enum search status. However, if some other error occurs, then we will toast this one, this section where we will just display the error message to the users themselves. So this is it. Our function is ready. Let me fix this one because we don't have an and search failure currently. This is mistake by my part, my bad. I'll just remove this, and I think our function is ready to be tested. So first, to assign this script, you're gonna have to go here, right click in this search button and assign script, and you will have to assign search function there. Let me refresh it and search. Okay, so it's displaying the result. So I'm assuming it is comparing this. I don't know why it's not displaying it's certainly displaying this value because it's 241 and there's no 241. Let me go back to the search sheet where we are doing this comparison. Hi, sorry for the inconvenience. So as I mentioned earlier, we encountered a little bit of error in the project and the search function was not working as intended, especially when the user provides only two inputs, because as I promised when I started the project, either the user provides all three inputs or two inputs. In case of and search, the search function will work as an and search. What I mean is each and every search result must have every input field provided by the user, but it wasn't working for two user inputs. So I figured out the issue, and it turns out that we were not checking if the number of arrays we pass in this filter rows indexes with all search term, number of arrays we pass here. As you know, each array is equivalent to one input search type. So we were not comparing if the number of arrays are equal to, at least equal to number of inputs, because for instance, let's say user searches for name and quantity and leaves description part empty, then the arrays passed in this function should at least be two filled array and one empty arrays, right? But it wasn't happening. We were not checking that, and that's why the search results, which only had one search terms results and two arrays empty, were getting passed. And to fix that, I have made some changes in the codes. The first one I did was to move these client's name, quantity, description, and has all selected outside of the search function. I made them global variables. The reason for doing that was I wanted to create another variable which counts the number of input provided by the user, which is not empty. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating an array and then filtering string, which means that I'm removing the empty values, and then after that getting the length of this arrays, which means that now it will count the proper number of input provided by the user. After that, there's another change I made in this function, filter rows indexes with all search term. And the change I made was in here, when we were checking if this combination array length is less than 1, we're also adding or block, and then we're adding the condition that if the array's length is less than that of the number of input field entered, then we will return, which means that in this function call, all the search terms provided by the users were not in that spreadsheet, because this function is called by each spreadsheet in our and search function, this one. For instance, let's say in case of 2021, when we are passing name, quantity, and description, and if the user has provided name and quantity but the description has been left out empty, then in this case, if the name and quantity both have some values in both of them, then it will proceed on to another part of this function, else it will just return an empty array. Now it will properly filter the search terms. Make sure to make these changes in your codes as well, and you can find the final code in the repository as well. I only found out this error after I recorded this video, so now it's fixed. I hope you understood what I'm trying to say here, why was the error happening and how it was fixed. Okay, so now everything is prepared. Our project is ready now, and our search form is ready to be tested. So let's do that. There's one thing I also wanted to mention. As you can see, I have added extra s at the end of this search term, and by doing so, we would expect that the result will still display, because except for the last letter, everything is in the dropdown, but it will not work because we are using JavaScript method called includes, and includes will actually return false if the search term has extra letters than that of the values which are used to call this include method with the search term. So I just wanted to tell you as a reminder that it will not work because there's an extra letter. So let me just show you. Searching with the database, and no items were found. Alright, so let me remove that S and let me search again. And this time it didn't work because currently this values is not saved. So let me hit enter. Now this new value is saved in this input, in this dropdown. Now let me hit the search again. Okay, as you can see, it has found the rows with both URL and packages included in each rows. Let's do the search again where all the three values are provided. Okay, now we get only 2 rows with all these 3 values included in each and every search results. Okay, now let's do OR search for all these search terms. Alright, so as you can see, the search results are a lot now. It's 71 actually. So it's 71 minus 7. 64 rows in this spreadsheet have either of these values in them. So that's how the search works. So all right, so everything is working now, and I hope this tutorial was insightful to you. I hope you get to take away something from this tutorial. And how can you improve more in this project is you can add a feedback section here, and you can save the values. For instance, you can save the previous search terms here. Let's say if I hit the search button and after displaying the search result, what you can do is you can extract these values and you can save them here. Why? Because let's say we made some changes to the inputs, but we didn't do any searches, and we could get confused that the current value was actually searched in this spreadsheet, even though it is not true. Of course, you can also add a number of rows which were returned by the search operation, and you can also save it there. Okay, and of course you can make improvements to the form. You can make them look more beautiful, more pleasing. You can make changes to the search terms. You can add and remove the search terms and make similar modifications in your code to accommodate every changes. And then you can make this form more powerful in that way. I hope you are satisfied with the project, and I hope you get to take away something from this project. So please like and share this video. If you are interested in similar topic, please do subscribe to the channel to get notified of my updates. I also run a Medium publication named Script Portal. So you will also find plenty of blogs there, some of which are not converted to YouTube videos, so there might be something extra there for you. So if you're interested, you can subscribe to my Medium blog as well. So have a good day, guys, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.